Sociologists try to understand how the self develops, and we question what is human nature. Are we born to be human, or do we have to actually learn how to act human? A term that is used is tabula rasa, and this means blank slate. Some sociologists believe that we're born a blank slate and that it is through society and our interactions with others that we actually learn and develop ourselves. Evidence of this is with feral children, and this is where children are left in extreme isolation and they don't develop normally. Our development of self really is dependent upon other people. Remember in the first lecture I told you people are happier when they belong to a group and when they are around other people. This is one aspect of socialization. Sociologists talk about socialization as the way in which people learn how to act, how they learn the norms, values, attitudes, and behaviors of their group. All of these social influences on people are called agents of socialization, and we will talk more about them in the next lecture. I keep using the term self, but what really is the self? The self is our personal identity that's separate and different from all other people. And we believe that the self is created and modified through all the interactions with other people in our lives. The acquisition of language skills coincides with the growth of mental capacities, as you will learn when you read about feral children. This includes the ability to think of ourselves as separate and distinct and to see ourselves in relationship with others. We use language and interaction with others to help develop ourselves. Now let's take a look at some sociologists that focus on the development of self. These sociologists are known as symbolic interactionists, and they use a micro level of analysis. Charles Cooley was an early sociologist that focused on the development of self. He came up with the term the looking glass self, and this means that our sense of self develops through our perception of others' evaluations and appraisals of us. So in essence, we develop ourselves as we think other people see us. So you see this mirror here. This woman sees herself the way she thinks other people see her, and then that determines her own sense of self. Another famous sociologist was George Herbert Mead. He was writing in the late 1800s and early 1900s, and he's famous for this, mind, self, and society. He believes that people are born tabula rasa, so the mind is born blank, and then the self develops in relationship to other people, and that society emerges from the interactions of all individuals. In essence, all of the things that people do, all of our interactions, end up creating society. Mead expanded upon Cooley's idea of the looking glass self. He believed that the self was created through social interaction and that this process started in early childhood. For Mead, the self develops in several stages. First is the preparatory stage. This is where a child under the age of 3 really lacks a complete sense of self, and so they can't distinguish themselves from others. They do things like imitating or mimicking others around them, like playing peekaboo or patty cake. And then after the age of 3, children enter the play stage, where they start to pretend at being mommy or daddy or princess or a doctor. This is referred to as taking the role of the significant other. And then finally, there's the game stage. This is where children's self-awareness increases. By early school years, children begin to take part in organized games. Each child has to follow the rules of the game, which means that they must take into account all the roles of the other players. And here is where children begin to understand the set of standards common to a social group and to see themselves from others' point of view. Mead calls this the generalized other.